Schmid show for the super yachts, for the fans of super yachts. Today with another guest, Dale. Dale is a personality. He runs a company, Proteus Recruitment. I don't know too much about that. I don't want to go into the details. I want to leave it up to Dale to introduce himself and the company as well and services. But I'm very honored and I really thank you. I feel great having you on this show, Dale. How are you doing?
Hey, Walter. Good afternoon. I'm doing very well, thank you. And likewise, thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be on the show and to join you here.
Awesome. Well, I know a little bit about you because I went through the website, but the listeners and the viewers, they have no clue. And even myself, I would really like to know, what is it? I mean, you've built up a great and amazing company. You achieved so much success with that already, and still in this hard time, which we'll talk about a little bit later about that. What is it that you offer? What is it that your services can bring to clients, customers? Tell us a little bit about your story and your history.
Okay, a little bit about, well, sort of go back to the beginning. So I grew up on the Isle of Wight and basically fell into the yachting industry by accident. I started work for a company called Future Fibers back in about '98 as basically building yacht rigging, composite yacht rigging. I think the first boat we built some stuff for was Silk Cut, and then a few open 60s out of MacArthur with Kingfisher. And I joined the company. I was supposed to help them out for a couple of months and ended up working 16, nearly 17 years as a professional yacht rigger. During that time, I think I was global support for 6 Volvo Ocean races, worked with probably alongside 25 America's Cup teams, providing our services and rigging and then masts later on as well. And that lasted until around about 2015. And then I was approached by a recruitment company based in London, and they asked me if I would join them and set up a marine division for them. They already worked in aerospace, in automotive, in motorsport. And when they approached me, I said, recruit, what do I know about recruitment? They sort of persuaded me to go to London and visit and meet with them and have a chat. And it turned out, they said, look, you know, from what you've been doing for the last 17, 18 years, you've got a huge network, huge connections, you understand the industry, you know firsthand what it is that these shipyards, that your potential clients need when it comes to staffing and when it comes to finding skills, project managers, design engineers. Well, you've worked alongside all of these guys. And it's like a bit of a light bulb moment. Actually, yeah, you might be right. So yeah, I joined a London-based recruitment company back in 2015. I worked for them for 5.5 years, set up their marine division, became very successful, and you know, worked with a lot of the shipyards, yacht builders, designers, and some of the refit yards in and around the Mediterranean that I'd historically worked with as a yacht rigger. And since then, helping people to find skilled labor, whether that's sort of on the hands-on technical skilled guys, so composites, you know, interiors, carpentry, deck fitting, stainless, you know, welding, fabrication, marine electricians, all of those. And then some of the more professional roles that we, you know, sort of design engineers, naval architects, CFD specialization, project management, and even some sort of senior boardroom recruitment as well. So yeah, technical recruitment for the marine industry is basically how I like to sum it up. And it's purely sort of shore-based. I don't work or do any recruitment for crew, yacht crew. That's not my background. It's not where I come from. So it's something that I would be sort of out of my depth, so to speak, if I was to try and sort of work in that industry. So yeah, technical recruitment for but mainly sort of professional yachting and super yacht industry.
But that's awesome, and it really sounds like you have to have extremely a lot of knowledge in technical parts. But you mentioned a name, a lot of the listeners perhaps have no idea, no clue what it is, the yacht rigging. What is that? How do you explain that?
Okay, so yacht rigging is basically all of the very expensive, historically it was rod rigging or made from stainless steel wire that was twisted. Nowadays, most of yacht rigging is composite. So it's made from carbon or some very sort of lightweight materials like PBO. And the yacht rigging is basically, it's on sailing yachts, and where you've got the big stick pointing up in the air, which those of you who do know sailing yachts will know is the mast. And rigging is everything that holds that mast up and allows the yacht to sail and sort of, basically use the mast as its engine, so to speak.
That's now very clear for those people who are only in the motor yachting and not in the sailing yachting. Mm-hmm. Especially in Switzerland, where we have these big yachts, you can imagine, very small, by the way. But yeah, it's very important to know those details, and also the technical part are many times things or knowledge that you don't see from outside. When you look at a yacht, so what is behind the building and the construction, it's very much hidden, but it is the core of a yacht that holds the yacht together and makes it happen, that it works and doesn't fall apart. Now, what I have read is that you are also especially in speeding fast vessels and super yachts, that this is a huge part in the company. Is that correctly understood?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's sort of my background, where I come from. Yes. Yeah. So I guess I've got a good bit of experience around fast yachts and sort of race yachts and the race sector. Yeah.
It looks like you are still absolutely on fire, and you are sort of a person that I will say you are unstoppable. And this is many times that I'll see people in the yachting industry, especially, that they are sort of not burned out at all. And now my question to you is, where is that coming from, that you have this source to always having this fire, always having this enthusiasm, which is a huge part, because yachting is a lot about emotions, and enthusiasm also creates products for emotion. How do you do that?
I think, do you know what? It's one of these things, you hear it a lot now. People put it on sort of LinkedIn, if you can work in a job that you love, then it's not really work. And for me, ever since I was a kid, I've always been extremely passionate about the sea and about being near the water, being out on the water. So now, historically, as a yacht rigger, I was getting to work alongside some fantastic projects, working with some of the best sailors in the world, going and visiting some of the biggest, most high-profile super yachts, being sort of stuck up their mast for 2 days, which some people might consider hellish, but for me, that was absolutely fantastic. It was like I was like a kid playing with big Meccano sets and very expensive string. This is how I used to describe it to people. Now, in the recruitment that I do, I still get to work with a lot of those projects. I still get to go and visit a lot of shipyards. Well, not so much at the moment, of course, but historically, yes. So I'm working alongside companies that are developing and building cutting-edge projects, cutting-edge race boats, really high-profile super yachts, and helping them to deliver those projects by finding the right skills that they need, when they're struggling. So I guess that sort of sums it up, really. I really love what I do, so it's not that hard to kick myself out of bed every day and keep going and doing it.
Cool, great. Well, you mentioned something very important that nowadays time, which challenges a lot of companies. Some, they are really performing like never did before, and others, a lot of them, they're struggling. And the yachting industry is a little bit of a special industry. How did you experience this pandemic time? What was the impact, the main impact that you realized in the company or in the market as such?
Yeah. So I mean, initially there was definitely a little bit of a downturn. If we go back a year ago, a lot of companies, at the beginning of lockdowns and sort of borders closing, we had quite a lot of contractors who were working remotely in sort of, maybe a foreign country, and so a lot of those contractors were sent home and everything sort of slowed down a little bit. Then it became apparent in sort of August, September, these projects that people had been working on still needed to be delivered. And, there were penalties and potentially deadlines, and, the owners who were expecting delivery, their views hadn't changed, their delivery schedule hadn't really changed. And so things started to ramp up. And now it's literally, now that we seem to be, fingers crossed, coming out the back of it, everywhere it's absolutely firing. There has been delays, obviously, and people have now got to play catch up. So at the moment, I'm finding the industry is just absolutely on fire, to be honest. I know that a lot of the Dutch shipyards that we talk with and that we're sort of working with, they've now got build slots booked for the next 4 years, 5 years. You know, one of the big shipyards, actually talking to a super yacht captain, and they had 2 shipyards reserved. Couldn't decide which one they were going with, and eventually they decided that they were going with probably the most well-known. And they phoned the other shipyard to tell them in the morning, say, look, really sorry, but the project is now going to this shipyard. And the secondary shipyard that had this free slot, they'd already sold it by that afternoon. And this is a slot for a 102-meter super yacht. You know, we're talking, you know, that's how sort of buoyant the sector is at that end right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and obviously the yachting industry in general goes pretty well, what I hear around a little bit when I listen to others and talk to others. But with your extremely deep knowledge in the technical part, now when it comes to new entrepreneurs or companies who have problems or getting started with their business, out of your experience, what would be your main or your biggest advice for someone who starts new or want to pivot or want to grow his business that he is in the yachting industry? What would be your best advice?
I think, you know, the best advice I can give is probably, you know, get a solid plan in place if you can before making the move. You know, before you actually sort of jump and go for it, try and do as much and have as much, you know, sort of in place as you can, and you know, have a good idea, a formula, you know, formulated about what you're going to do, what your business plan. Make sure that, you know, you're not going to overextend yourself, and that you're able to sort of, as soon as you step in, to start to generate and to you know, the second you do step out and start up, and unless you're doing something on the side and you're still in employment or you're still working, the second you go, you know, you need to be able to make sure that you can get up and running and start to generate revenue.
That's a very, very important part, the preparation. Success loves preparation and planning. Mm-hmm. If you don't plan, you plan to fail. That's sometimes the same.
Right, yes.
And now, when it comes to the competition, I don't think there is too many competition in what you are presently doing. But nevertheless, what is it? Why should a client come to you and not to somebody else? What is so unique with you and your company?
I think probably I'd take it back to what we started with. You know, there are now off the back, especially off the back of the pandemic, there's quite a few companies that have popped up now, people who are deciding to go into the recruitment and going into the sector and trying to target this particular area. I think the one thing that separates me and keeps me sort of, you know, hopefully ahead of the game is that technical knowledge, that technical understanding, the fact that I've been, you know, working alongside America's boats. I've sailed on the boats, you know, same with the Volvo, same with big super yachts, you know, and I used to race on Wally 148 Saudade. You know, I've been in there and I've been around it. I've worked in the shipyards. Even if I haven't been a hands-on carpenter fitting interiors, I've been down in the interior working with the carpenters, because we had to take bits of the interior out around the mast base, you know, to actually be able to get at the mast and to be able to jack up. So yeah, I think that's probably what sets me apart. And, you know, again, having worked in the industry for so long, I think just that credibility and I think hopefully my passion comes through as well. And the fact that I really love what I'm doing, you know, it's not just for me, just a job. I really want my clients to succeed, and it makes me extremely happy when I can help them to succeed as well, you know. So yeah, being part of that and building those sort of long-term partnerships and relationships, as opposed to, you know, something that I hear and that gets repeated back to me is that recruiters have a bad reputation because a lot of people perceive all they want to do is get in quick, put some bums on seats, make some money, and run off again, you know. Whereas me, that's not my game plan.
Well, that's awesome, because you mentioned just multiple points, which are, in my perspective, very important, which is reliability, long-term relationship to the client's customers, and also the knowledge of your background that you bring in, the long-term experiences in the yachting industry. And yes, of course, but I can assure you that the passion comes through, and absolutely is feelable, sort of. And I think also very important for a client that he realizes that you are not only a job taker or somebody who has a task to fulfill. I think you will live your dream, and that comes into place when it comes to a connection to a new client. Now, for you listeners, that means also, if you want to have that guy that you need to have everything ready for your yacht, whatever it is, that is also mentioned on the website, which is a whole list. I don't go through it. It takes too long, but however, Dale is the guy to go to, and you'll find here somewhere also in different places in this interview, connection, opportunities, information. But what is the website's name, Dale? What is it?
So you can find us, we're www.proteusrecruitment.com.
Awesome. Okay, so it's actually what is written here just below. You see the link. However, you mentioned as well that you have a lot of knowledge. Now that leads me into the curiosity of the question, how important do you see or do you think is coaching and training in the business world?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I was very fortunate. The last company that I worked for developed, they invested heavily in training, in focusing, in sort of development. So I think it is massive. It's huge. I went on quite a few different courses of actually business training, strategy for, sort of change management, progressing new ideas, that sort of thing, and how to sort of develop and how to involve and integrate those as you keep moving forwards, keep new ideas coming in. And I think, if you're going to stagnate and not want to keep developing, you don't want to keep training, you don't want to keep moving forwards, then I think you're going to get left behind. So yeah, massively important to keep focus on new ideas, new training. Yeah, for sure.
Very important also to hear that from a specialist like you are, because a lot of people, they sometimes still think they know it all, they have been everywhere, but the progress and also the growing process is an ongoing process on a day-by-day basis as well. It's also my point of view.
Absolutely. I don't think, hopefully I won't stop learning until the very end, if you know what I mean. So yeah, that's my ambition anyway.
There we have some things in common as well, in terms of learning every day until the end, even beyond, perhaps, who knows, but we'll see. Now, where do you see yourself in the next 2 years?
In the next 2 years, funny actually, so we're at the moment, we have Proteus Recruitment. We're in the process of incorporating the next company, which is going to be Proteus Professionals, based in the Netherlands. And, basically we've already got a few people lined up, a couple of partners coming into that company. So, over the next 2 years, I just see us really establishing the brand, Proteus, building on what we've built so far. But ultimately still here in Valencia and with the family.
Well, that seems like growing the company, expanding. Expansion is always good, creates jobs, creates opportunities.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this is awesome in this time, especially because a lot of companies have the struggles. You do the opposite. And this should also encourage you as a listener and viewer to not standing still, to try everything, get help, and ask people. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Now, in terms of that, Dale, how important do you see to ask or to have the courage to ask questions?
I think you hit on the very important point there. It's having the courage and not being afraid to ask the questions. I think I know from personal experience in the past, I've quite often been probably too proud, to admit that what you don't know and put your hand up and ask those questions. And, at the times I can always look back when I've done that, you pay the price for it. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely critical, and I think, if you're working with the right people and you're surrounded with the right people, then you ask the questions and they appreciate that. Nobody looks down on you for it. So yeah, absolutely. I think, the most important point is not being afraid to ask the questions, not being afraid to turn around and say, you know what, I don't actually understand. Please, can you just break that down for me in a way that I can get it and understand? Yeah, because you'll get through the difficulties a lot quicker if you can sort of use that approach.
Very important, extremely important, absolutely. Now, one of the last questions, because time is flying, it's just flying, it's incredible, because there's so much content from your side. I could talk for hours, for days, perhaps, in terms of technical part and construction, everything, recruitment. Well, we need to wrap up this time by time. Now, one of the last questions, technically or in business relation, on what you do is, what is the biggest or the greatest asset that you want to bring out of the company in the next 6 months that people can be or should be attracted and should have awareness of?
Wow. Okay. The biggest asset, I think, for us, for me, it's that partnership. It's actually working alongside and collaborating and really being involved and being able to add value, not purely just from a recruitment perspective, but I have a massive network of marine professionals, industry professionals. I'm working with a couple of companies at the moment, and I've been able to open doors and make connections for them to help them move their business forward. And I actually had a guy yesterday said, well, look, if this guy comes and does some consultancy, and I have to pay him, but I also have to pay you a fee as well. I said, well, start, Mike. I said, I'm purely just making an introduction because I really think this guy can help you and your business move forwards quicker. I said, if he can help your business move forward quicker, then that's good for me, because ultimately you're going to come knocking on my door sooner. So, it's that adding value in other places, again, which I think hopefully, as with my background and history, that's something that I can offer that maybe one of my competitors isn't able to do quite as well.
I just can say, wow, because helping other people nowadays is very important. Too many people still don't understand that, but you just brought it to a point, delivering value without expectations and creating cooperations, relationships. By saying that, we coming to an end. I want to wrap it up because it's so awesome. If I don't stop now, I will never stop. But I want to give you the last words before I come to the very end. What are your last words that you want to tell to the listeners, to the viewers in this interview? Now, Dale Fisher is talking.
Okay, I think I would just like to retouch on that last point there. I said one of my sort of main points behind Proteus when we set up is that absolutely helping people, being completely honest, true to our values of just trust and transparency, and being just completely down to earth, and absolutely, I really enjoy helping people out. If anybody is out there who is thinking about, how can they get into the marine industry? How can they go from the yacht to onto shore? What could help them make the transition? And they just want to have a chat, then reach out, get in touch. I'm always happy to build my network and talk to passionate people and see if we can help them to fulfill their dreams.
Awesome. That means also to me, I can do some things for you because I will bring you some more out information on the Super Yacht Radio and other channels that I'm running, that more people get to know about Dale Fisher and Proteus Recruitment. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. Thank you very much, Dale. It was really an honor to me having you on my show, having this great interview, delivering value to the listeners, to the viewers. And wherever you are in this world, from the Walter Schmid Show, I wish you a great day, evening, and stay safe, take care, and see you next time.